Right, well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and also thank you so much to Shaquille for putting this event on today. I think we're very, very lucky that the weather has improved for us. So I wanted to start off with a question. So what's the biggest question that is being asked at the moment around AI? Does anybody, what's a question that you might have around AI that you're seeing in the media a lot, that people are asking themselves? Can anybody? Job loss. Yeah, is AI going to replace me, right? And I think that this is a concern that a lot of us as parents know, because I have a 14-year-old daughter myself. And you know, when I'm looking at her schoolwork, I'm seeing that the pathway that she's being taught has been the same pathway that we've always been taught for the past 200 years, right? Which is the linear pathway. And that pathway is do well at school, go to university, get a stable job, retire. But because AI is here, that pathway is dissolving for a lot of industries. There are definitely a lot of industries that still have that pathway, but a lot of jobs that we are currently training children up for right now has already been taken over by AI, right? So this is causing a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear for a lot of parents, for a lot of students, for a lot of my tutors, graduates as well, heading into a field that is very uncertain. So I'm going to start off with an activity, right? 2 small activities to help us listen to what I have to present, right? So the very first activity is similar to box breathing. Has anybody heard of box breathing? Yes. Yeah, what's box breathing?
It's like a square, so exactly say 4 or 5 seconds of inhaling, then hold the breath, exhaling, and then hold the breath again.
That's correct, right? So if you imagine a box, you inhale for 4 counts, you hold, you exhale for 4 counts, hold, inhale for 4 counts, hold, exhale for 4 counts, right? It's what Navy SEALs use when they are under extreme stress, right? Extreme stress. So what group is under extreme stress right now in terms of school groups, right? Of selective students, right? Students who are preparing for the selective exam, they need to learn from year 7 to year 9 within 1 year, right? Very, very stressful for students. So we have to teach them regulation techniques like this. But what I've done is I've changed box breathing to just tilt it a little bit so it's diamond breathing, right? So it's a diamond instead. So we're going to go through this. So I'm just going to go through. So if you're finding that you're a little bit stressed, then you just go to the left-hand side of the diamond, you breathe in up to the point, right? Hold for 4 breaths, exhale, hold, inhale, hold, exhale, hold, all right? So we all know what diamond breathing is. The next activity is called pause. So I want everybody to just hold your hands out in front of you, just like this. Pause. Okay. So this means that you need to pause before you pounce, right? Pause before you pounce. So pause before you pounce means that you need to, when you're under stress, you need to just stop for a little bit. Just pause, right? Because what happens is, if you keep reacting to things all the time, it just increases stress in the situation. So what you want to do is just pause. So imagine the diamond as being a small cage, right? That is completely open. It's like a wire cage, right? When you're feeling stressed, you're in this cage and you're just swirling around. So you just need to just get out of the cage, go to the left-hand side, start breathing. You know, it only takes 20 seconds. If you want to do 2 rounds of that, you can. 3 rounds, even better. But even then, I don't meditate, that's what I do, right? When I'm under stress, that's what I do. So we're going to go through 2 rounds of diamond breathing, right? Because this is a technique that you can teach your children very, very easily. When they're stressed, let's just do some diamond breathing. It literally takes 20 seconds, right? And it's a technique that they have when they're in the selective exam, or when they're in a VC exam, or they're in a scholarship exam, and they're thinking, oh, everybody has just gone ahead of me, okay, let's just do 20 seconds of diamond breathing before we even turn the page. That then regulates their nervous system, right? Very, 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 very important technique. So let's pause. We need to get out of our diamond, right? And now we're going to breathe, right? So let's breathe in. You can close your eyes if you like, but I want you to inhale and think about something that's really stressing you out right now. When you exhale, you release the tension. Release it completely, right? If you need to, take a loud breath, just do it. We're all friends here, right? And then inhale, exhale. All right, let's start. Ready? Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. Now, pause stands for pause. Then A stands for anchor, right? So when you pause, you anchor, and then that's when you do your diamond breathing, right? Then W means to widen what is possible. You have to widen what is possible, because if you're in an extreme stress situation like a selective exam, you have to either think, I can do it or I can't do it, right? Think of the version of you that can do it. Your mind is so powerful. And then S stands for step into that version of yourself that has already achieved it, right? Because you either have achieved that goal or you haven't achieved that goal. Choose the version of you that has achieved that goal. That's it, right?
Sorry, what is W?
Widen, right? You widen what is possible for you in any given situation, because there are infinite possibilities open to students, right? And they just have to choose which version of themselves is going to show up that they need to step into in order to achieve the goal that they have set out to achieve for themselves, right? So, pause, anchor, widen, step. They are the 4 steps, right? And it can be done in 20 seconds. Now, has anybody watched the film Sliding Doors by any chance? No? Okay. So Sliding Doors, very, very old movie. So the movie is about a character called Gwyneth Paltrow. It's Gwyneth Paltrow's character. And there's a scene where she misses the train and she catches the train. And we've got 2 completely different pathways for her, right? And her life unfolds completely differently, just depending on that one decision, right? So this assumes that they are 2 different lives that she's moving into. But what if I told you that both of those lives just existed simultaneously, right? You and your children are currently living infinite lives. There is a version of your child as a doctor, as a scientist, as an engineer, as a piano player, and you know that because all of you are living multiple simultaneous lives right now. For myself, I am a mother, I am a business owner, I'm a friend, I'm a daughter, right? I am also a chef when I cook at home. I'm an Uber driver when I drive my daughter around. What's to stop me from fully stepping into any of those roles, right? My daughter and I, we have an activity. We have HelloFresh at home. So we have these recipes that come. And so we always think about, okay, what's going to happen? What's our ultimate menu when we have our restaurant, our HelloFresh restaurant? So then we'll have, that's a version of ourselves. What's stopping me? I go and do a culinary course. I open up a restaurant. All of a sudden, I'm a chef, right? So it's all just about the decisions that you make at any point in time that suit you, right? I didn't choose that reality. That's a fun activity to think about. But the reality that I chose 25 years ago was to step into my role as the owner of Spectrum Tuition. But for those who don't know the full story, I started Spectrum Tuition when I was only 18 years old, right? Only 18 years old. And I didn't actually plan to start a tuition business. What happened was my brother is one of those amazing geniuses that just finds education really, really easy, right? He taught himself how to read at the age of 2, right? He taught, because my family were refugees, my parents couldn't really help us. But my brother was the person who's only 1 year older than me, who used to teach us. We used to play Sale of the Century at home. We used to have books that he would point to, and we would learn words like bird and dog and cat and how to spell and how to do our maths. So when he finished high school, he got an amazing ATAR, 99 point whatever. And 20 years ago, if there was somebody in the community, because first generation Vietnamese, if there was somebody in the community that has already achieved, that has been able to achieve like what my brother has achieved, all the family and friends wanted my brother to teach them, to help them and to inspire their children to also reach those heights. So then my brother found himself with 30 students at one stage, because all of my family friends, they had like four children in the family, 8 children in the family, 3, 2, yeah. So he was teaching 30 students at one stage, and it was just a bit too much for him. So then my parents had an office, similar, like an open space like this, and they just subdivided all of the rooms. And so I taught a few, my brother taught a few, and then it just grew from there. Because the philosophy that I have, even though I didn't have any experience, I just helped the student who was right in front of me. That's it. I just cared about the student who was in front of me. If they were struggling with maths, I just taught them maths. If they were struggling to read, I would just teach them how to read, right? And then we just built a curriculum from there. And so at the time, I was studying commerce arts. And then at the end of my initial degrees in commerce arts, we had grown to 300 students, just accidentally grew. And I had every intention of just closing the tuition centre down, but then I thought, we've got all these families who are relying on this service, right? Some parents at the time, because we only had one centre in Footscray, some parents were travelling 40, 50 an hour to get to our centre. And I was just thinking to myself, why is this? I am inexperienced as a educator, but I have all these people travelling from all over Melbourne to come to the tuition centre. I was only 20-something at the time. And then I was thinking, okay, I could either quit my job. This is my sliding doors moment. I could either quit Spectrum and I could just work as an accountant, which is what my career path was supposed to be, or I could go to university and learn how to do teaching properly, right? So then I chose, obviously, the second path. And that's when I saw the inequalities that existed in Australian schools. What I saw, I went to 4 different schools for 4 different teaching rounds, and the experience that everybody got was completely different. So, one of the schools I went to, amazing. The teacher or the school just organised a veggie patch. And so then the students harvested those vegetables and they sold those vegetables in the school newsletter. So then from that experience, they learnt their maths, they learnt their English, they learnt inquiry, it was a very, very rich experience. But then at the very next school, that first school was a private school. At the very next school, which was also a private school, the Year 5 students didn't even know their 2 times tables. Why is it so different? They are both groups of Australian students. Why is the educational experience so different from one suburb to the next? It's not like the students, they were disadvantaged or anything. It was just because the way the education system is set up and the way that I was taught when I was going through my teaching rounds was you need to prepare every lesson separately. That's impossible for one teacher to look after 25 different students, right? So you would have seen the effects of this during COVID, right? a lot of the time, that's where, students were online. You would have found that a lot of schools just could not handle that because there was no curriculum in place. And so then there was a lot of schools that was scrambling, a lot of chaos, but then there were other schools that did a really good job, right? So it just shows the inequalities that currently exist in the Australian education system. It shouldn't be that if one student attends one school, they get a better experience than another student from another school, right? So what I decided was to rebuild the curriculum from scratch, and that's why we have such a structured program that we have been refining for the past 25 years. We just keep refining it. We keep getting better and better and better with it. And it follows one model, which is explicit teaching, right? And I didn't know it at the time that it was called explicit teaching. I just thought, you teach students before you test them, right? It sounded quite obvious to me. But over the years, the education system has just undergone so many different experiments. They've wasted billions and billions of dollars with, constructivism. There is open plan learning, where they would knock down all of the walls and then have different students in different parts of one large room. And then they would then have to rebuild walls again because that just doesn't work for 7-year-old children, right? But for us, we assess the students where they're at. We give them the materials that they need that's at their level. We teach them in classes. No technology in the classes at all. It's all about connection, all about that connection with humans. And we have activities in the class that allow the students to connect with one another. We play games in the classes, right? To acknowledge all of the different types of learners that there are. We give them clear steps on how to do the work, step by step. We then give them an example. We give them what we call a have a go question to show the tutor that they understand before doing independent work, practice questions. And then we give them homework that is aligned, right? You probably have heard that a lot of educators say that homework doesn't work. Well, that's because from what I've seen, how homework is set in schools, is that the schools teach something that might be just addition, but then at home it's like problem solving. The students haven't been built up to be able to hold that level of knowledge yet, right? You need to guide them every single step of the way. Like what we did at the start, we need to help them regulate their nervous system so that they can feel that they can do it, right? So you'll notice that, you've probably heard of stories where lottery winners, they win $10 million and then they just spend it all within a year and then they go back to how their life was before. Do you know why that is? It's because they hadn't expanded to the version of themselves that could hold the $10 million, right? They didn't pause. They didn't think about how can I use this $10 million effectively. They just thought, oh, I've got all this money, I need to spend it before it goes away. There's a scarcity mindset around it. But for students, we need to build them up so that they can hold bigger and bigger versions of themselves, so they get to a point where they feel like they can step into the version of themselves where they're in year 7, but then they're able to do year 10 work by the end of the year. That's just the version of themselves that we tell them is necessary in order to sit the selective exam, right? So we've just stuck to this same model over and over and over again. No technology, but then at home, that's where all the technology is. We have our video lessons that are aligned with the in-person classes so that if they have any issues, they can watch it either before. So that's called flipped learning. So you watch the videos first, you understand what it is, so then when you're in class, then you can ask the tutor and you can really target the questions that you ask. That's a really great strategy, right? But then on the other side, if you don't have time, that's fine as well. You learn it in class and then you can learn it again at home as many times as you need to. And then now we've also got AI tools, right, to generate as many questions as you need to. We've also got downloadable worksheets, right, that can reinforce what was taught. And we've also got the AI avatar. It's not perfect, I completely get it, because AI can never replace humans. And that's what I have been working on this entire year. I've been working on AI systems that put humans first, so that we're not building a world where AI is replacing humans. We're building a world that our children can inherit, where AI amplifies the human, right? AI creates the support so that humans can do what humans do best. So in between classes, yes, we've got AI, but it's just there as a bridge, just in case your child has any questions. If the AI isn't able to answer, they write it down on the question slip, and then they ask the tutor the following week. That's why the system works the way that it is. And you know, for myself, just from the start of the talk today, when I was talking about my brother being that brilliant person, you know, I wasn't like that. You know, I did okay, but I wasn't an exceptional student. And I feel like that empathy, where I struggled at school, I can now build systems to help children who are also struggling. Because if I was one of those people who scored the 99.9, I would think that learning is easy for everybody, right? But that's why it's all in a system, it's all in our workbooks. That's why we've got the question slip at the front of each booklet. Because for me, I was a very shy student. You wouldn't see this now because, you know, I can talk, but this is also a version of me that I had to step into as the years went on, right? I just had to step into it, and I had to make a decision. I could have just stayed small, and I could have been that shy person that cannot speak in front of crowds, or I can just choose to be that, to support my franchisees, right? And to support the students. So, yes, so that's the model that we have had for 25 years. So then something extraordinary happened at the beginning of this year. The government, after going through 20 years of experimentation, decided that explicit teaching was the version that they wanted to mandate in all Australian schools, right? This is something that we have known for the past 2 decades, right? And now it is mandated. Every school needs to do it. And another thing, at the start of next year, they are limiting screen time to 90 minutes in all primary schools. We know that as well, right? We know that it's not about sitting students in front of a screen. You know, I've got so many stories about, you know, schools approaching me because their teachers are just teaching children mathematics through YouTube, right? Because it's just how things are now. But for us, because we've got the paper booklets, it's all about the connection in class. So we know that. So then something extraordinary happened about 2 weeks ago. Spectrum Tuition has been selected as preferred supplier for all Australian schools, universities and TAFEs next year. Okay? And that, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, like, you know, to be able to hold on to one idea for 20 years and, you know, to have everything change all around, like throughout that time, the curriculum had changed, but then I would look at the curriculum, it's the same thing. Because developmentally, a year 3 student just needs to learn their addition, their subtractions, their fractions, right? And it needs to be done in a correct sequence. Whereas when I was doing my teaching rounds, I saw, because teachers are very stretched thin, they have to be everything. So then they can't build the curriculum that we have been building for the past 2 decades. They just can't, right? So then what I saw was that teachers would get to school at 8 o'clock in the morning, my supervising teachers, they would just grab any book off the shelf, photocopy it, give it to their students. So then one day the students will be teaching addition, the following day they would be teaching measurement, they'll be teaching capacity. It's just random. And so that's why students are really struggling with their maths, right? It's because it's not taught in the correct sequence. Whereas for us, we've been refining it over a long period of time. So yes, preferred supplier, we are so happy about that because we are now able to bring our program into Australian schools, right? The ones that we have refined. And I really feel like being able to standardise, and it's not saying that we're going to replace what the teacher's role is, it's to help them, to help support them so they don't have to come up with material every single class, which is what you're taught when you're at uni. So, the next stage of Spectrum, this year I took a little bit of time off from running just operations at Spectrum because I was able to pass my Footscray campus to one of my other franchisees who was previously a tutor, and then she started the Q campus. She's currently a teacher at Penley and Essendon Grammar at the moment, and she and her brother decided to take on the Footscray campus, which I was so happy about because that's my baby for 20 something years. So being able to pass it on to somebody with legacy was something that I was really, really happy about. So that gave me the space to explore what alternative pathways there are for students after the linear pathway, right? So what I was able to do this year was work across, build solutions across 12 different industries, right? I built 4 apps through RMIT University across fintech, edtech, legal tech, life tech, and a whole bunch of other things to explore what life is like. So I built what is called the Infinityverse, right? So the Infinityverse is our next generation. Oh gosh, it's really raining now. I'm glad we were able to get a little bit of play time in. Can everybody still hear me okay? Still? Yes. Okay. So the Infinityverse, it puts emotional regulation first because it doesn't matter how amazing the education system is or the curriculum is. If the student is unregulated, if they're feeling stressed, if they have had a problem with a friend, if they've had an issue at home and they're coming to school, there's going to be no learning unless we can regulate and help them diamond breathe first, right? To get them regulated. So the Infinityverse puts emotional regulation